hire a sales rep, right? So we're hiring a sales rep. Now, no matter what stage you're at, you're hiring a sales rep because you're fulfilling all of these numbers, right? So Jess, where are you right now? Do you have a production manager yet?
No, I'm wearing all the hats.
Why are you hiring a salesperson first?
Because project management is where my skills lie and also where my resources lie. I think that I have, based on how we're budgeting and onboarding new marketing tactics, I'm expecting an influx of estimates that I'm not going to be able to handle just myself. And so I expect that to need to supersede a project manager. I mean, it'll be closely followed, right? So it's not like I'm expecting to isolate those things, but that's where my energy's at.
So let me just tell you why I tell people do a production manager first. First of all, it's the point of hiring anybody is to free up time for you.
Right.
So like right now, you've probably got roughly the same amount of time goes to production as goes to sales.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Anyone in phase one, that's probably going to be the case. So this is what your funnel looks like in your business. So you get marketing, you get leads, estimate, and then sales, you do estimates, and then production, you produce what you sold. So if you hire someone to do production and they screw, and you're just focused on sales and they screw up, you can come in and like save the day and still get profit.
Mm-hmm.
If you hire someone to do sales and they blow it, you have nothing to produce and you have no profit.
That tracks.
That's why I say hire a production manager first. The second thing is, in my experience, hiring a good salesperson is more of a gamble than hiring a good production manager.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's why all my energy is focused on that, because I expect that to be more difficult.
Yeah, and that's why I would recommend a production manager first.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did do, so right now you're doing 10 estimates a week roughly?
Yep.
All right. So the whole thing is, and you could do more, right?
Yep.
If you had the time. So could you do 15 estimates a week?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you selling 15? What do you sell on 15, on 10 estimates? How much do you sell?
We have about a 65% close rate.
And you said production's your strong point. That's a really good sales rate. Okay. So 65%, what's your average job size?
It's increasing. Right now we're at 6,000.
Okay. So let's just say you bring in an average sales rep and they sell 35% of their estimates and they do 15 estimates per week, which you can get them. And so that means they're going to book 5 jobs per week for $30,000 in sales per week. And we're paying them 7%. That's $2,100 per week. So you can easily hire them just based on the recommendations I think I made on the last webinar, where it's like a $40,000 base, and every 4 weeks they get a bonus on whatever they, it's 6 to 7% on whatever they sell past 48K or whatever the number ends up being. Do you remember that? Were you on that webinar?
Yeah.
That breakdown?
Yeah.
So you just got to do the thinking. So I'll repeat it for anybody who hasn't seen this before, but if I want to sell, if I want a sales rep to earn 7% and I'm going to give them a $40,000 base, then they need to sell. So I'm going to do the math here. So $40,000 divided by 7%, 0.07. They need to sell $571,000. 7% of that is 40K. Y'all tracking? So if they sell 571,000 and I pay them 7%, they make 40 grand. So they have to sell this to justify their base pay. Now, how many weeks a year would you say a sales rep can sell for you, Jess? Based on where you live?
We're coming up on a 1-year anniversary, so we haven't been in the market long.
Where do you live though?
I live in Connecticut, so we get rough winters. And right now it's just kind of an anomaly. Like we've had our biggest month in January, which
January's good. January's good. but you'll probably have a little bit of slow Thanksgiving, December. If you're in Florida, November, December is still good. But if you're in Connecticut, that's going to slow down. So let's just say they can sell for 40 weeks. That's $14,000 per week that they're selling. So we'd say 4-week bonus times 14K. They're going to get a $40,000 base pay. And then every 4 weeks, they get a 6 or 7%, that's up to you, bonus on every dollar they sell after 57,100. And so this sales rep who we're saying,
57? Sorry.
I took the 571 they need to sell.
Yep.
And say they got to do that in 40 weeks. We're just going to assume they're not going to sell anything for 10 weeks.
Okay.
You could maybe do 42, but I divided 571 divided by 40 weeks means they got to sell 14K a week, those 40 weeks to cover their base salary of 40K. 14,000 a week times 4 weeks, because that's what their bonus period is.
A month.
Yeah. Well, 4 weeks specifically.
Okay.
So every other payroll, we pay a payroll every 2 weeks. So every other payroll, they get their bonus, and their bonus is whatever they sell beyond their base requirement of 57.
Okay. So that answers the question of, because one of my questions was, what's kind of like the minimum that we have to be producing yearly to be in a position where we can start considering a sales rep.
And that's the wrong question to ask. Okay. You're in a position to hire a salesperson when your time is filled up. So this is how we build, this is how you build a company. It's really what you do with your time. What you're really building is you're changing what you do. Okay. So we'll say down here is $15 per hour work. Okay. So look at this sliding scale. And then over here, we've got $500 per hour work. All right. Somewhere in here is like $50 an hour. Somewhere over here is 100 per hour. This is 250 per hour. All right. This is all the type work. So this is like admin, right here, maybe at 20, 25 per hour is painting. 50, maybe 75 per hour is selling and producing. That's probably somewhere in here. What's more valuable than selling and producing? Well, it's managing others. And then maybe, developing leadership, launching new locations. So I want to graduate myself through this by hiring people to take over stuff in my week. So right now you work, let's just say 40 hours per week. And let's say 15 is sales, 15 is production, 10 is other. Well, we're going to hire a production manager, and then your new schedule is going to be 25 hours of sales, 5 supporting PM, and 10 other. And then you hire a sales rep, and now you got 5 supporting sales, 5 supporting PM, 10 other, and you've got 20 hours free. So then you're going to hire another sales rep and PM, and now you got 10 hours to support sales, 10 hours to support production, 10 hours for other. So now you're working 30 hours a week, but we're selling, but you're doing $60,000 per week. You're doing 2.5 million per year. At 20%, you're making $500,000 a year. And if you just do the math per your hours, this is what you're doing. And then the next step is put someone in a lead position. So you work with like one lead, you can work on just Mondays. And this 10 hours of other stuff just slowly disappears too. Does that kind of make sense? So the growth isn't dependent on, hey, what are we doing and can we justify it? Because if your schedule's full, like right now, if you hired a production manager, let's say you did that first, and how much can you personally sell per week right now? 30,000?
About, yeah.
All right. So if you're doing 30,000 a week and your PM is getting 6%, they're making $1,800 per week. Let's say they can produce 40 weeks a year. They make that's $72,000 a year that you could pay a production manager. And that's if they just produce the 30. But if you could pick up 5 more estimates, you'd be selling 40,000 a week, and they could make $85,000 producing, 1.4 million, 1.3 million.
Okay. So this is a really helpful visual. So just for me to gauge, maybe this is the right question. What's the range from experience of how much revenue one PM can handle or one sales rep can handle, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously that's dependent on the person and your systems and all that, but
this is going to vary a little bit because bigger jobs, it's easier to produce $5,000-$6,000 jobs than $6,500 jobs.
right.
But they're both 30 grand.
Right.
So the bigger your job size, the more someone can produce. So this isn't exact, but I think you're safe to say a production manager should be able to do one. And part of it depends also on how long your season is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But let's just say you can produce 40 weeks production and they can do 35,000 per week. I think that's very reasonable if they're trained well. And that right there is 1.4. Is that 1.4 million? Did I do that right? Yeah. Now this math I just did, Jess, this is why it's so important not to skip the foundation. That's why I went through with Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do the foundation right, then you should be doing 40 hours a week, doing 15 to 20,000 in production yourself in like 15 hours. You will have proven that if I had 40 hours, I could produce 35K. If you can do that, you can teach someone else to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're paying 6% times 1.4 million, that's $84,000 a year. That's a great income. So the way we'll pay a production manager is we'll pay like what we do is with $72,000 and they have to produce 1.2 million. That's 6%. Every $50,000 after that, they get a $2,000 bonus. And then to get their bonus, they have to hit the gross profit margin requirement, and they have to keep customers happy. So we do like client ratings and shit.
Do you do like percentage of callbacks?